Good morning, it's 9 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everybody to our January the 3rd, 2024 meeting. Boy, the years sure do pass by quickly, don't they? Before we have our opening prayer, we would like to express our sympathy to the family of Dr. Bill Owens. Dr. Owens passed away recently. He served on this council for over 12 years and served as a chairman for 6 years, as well as serving on various committees and boards to help our county to grow. And so we'd like to, everyone to continue to remember that family. Also, Councilman Gerald Miller is in the hospital having some tests run, but I talked with him, and he's in good spirits and seems to be, he was just as jolly as old self, so, but y'all remember him, and of course, we're glad to have Councilman Rivers back after his accident, and glad that he's recovering well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to be back. And to you and the other council members, thank you so much for all that you've done during my time of being incapacitated. Your thoughts and prayers, phone calls, cards, everything has meant so much to me. I appreciate our staff. Tim, Susie, and the rest of you ladies, thank you so much for all you do in keeping me up to date and informed. But thank you again, and it's a pleasure to be back, let me tell you. And thank you for all that y'all have done. Thank you. Thank you to all the council. Thank you.
At this time, I'll call on Ms. Anderson for our morning prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, our Lord, thank you for bringing us to this new year and for the opportunities that lie ahead. Bless and guide us to be true to this civic responsibility entrusted to us. Give us insight without oversight, discernment without distortion, fairness without favoritism. Lead us to wise decisions and right actions as we move forward with the business of this county, and remind us to be instruments of your peace. Finally, Lord, please continue to watch over those who cannot be with us today or need your healing hand. All of these things I pray in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Amen. Right.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Before we adopt the agenda, there's a need to amend it, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Ruffner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two items, amend the agenda to add item 10D under ordinance readings and resolutions, and that would be to extend the emergency ordinance regarding subdivisions and mobile home parks for another 60 days. And then also strike item 13B, which was sale of surplus property by the Sheriff's Department.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Been have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I would like to make a motion to accept the resolution recognizing Mr. Andrew Ingram for his many years of service to our county by serving on the county council as a member and as chairman and as the mayor of the town of Sherrall. Is there a second?
As a privilege, I would have liked to second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Ingram, would you step forward, please, sir? Andy Ingram has served this county and this town of Sherrall for many years, and the citizens of this county and that town will benefit greatly from him for it says a resolution of recognition for service to Chesterfield County. Whereas the call to public office requires a natural willingness to serve citizens, and whereas Andrew R. Ingram, mayor of the town of Sherrall, a 1972 graduate of Sherrall High School, and a 1976 graduate of Gardner-Webb College, and whereas Mayor Ingram has served as mayor of the town of Sherrall and chairman of Chesterfield County Council, and whereas Mayor Ingram, in the past years, has served on the town council and the Chesterfield County Council, whereas Mayor Ingram has served the community through his involvement in several civic organizations, and whereas Mayor Ingram's guidance and longstanding service has helped to improve the quality of life of the citizens of the town of Sherrall and Chesterfield County. And now therefore be it resolved in council duly assembled that the Chesterfield County Council acknowledges, recognizes, congratulates, and thanks Mayor Andrew R. Ingram for his dedicated service to the citizens of the town of Sherrall and Chesterfield County, adopted this third day, January 2024. Thank you for your service.
This presentation has a special meaning to me, and back in 1987, had the honor of being elected to Chesterfield County Council, and I served on the Chesterfield County Council for 8 years. I had the privilege to also serve with Mr. Eddie Rivers, Gerald Miller, and Doug Curtis, and we had some good times back then.
Absolutely.
Work together, make this county move forward. And I also want to thank this entire council for our working relationship that we've shared over the years with the town of Sherrall. It's been a joy working with y'all. We in Sherrall appreciate your support, and by working together, it shows we can move this county forward. And I appreciate what y'all do. Thank y'all so very much.
Congratulations, Andy.
Mayor Ingram, if I may, and when I come here many, many moons ago, you were the chairman, and you done an excellent job. I learned a lot under your tutelage. But there's one thing I cannot remember, to be honest with you. Back when you were chairman, was that before Sherman come through and burnt the old courthouse or after? Your daddy. You're probably right. You are probably right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate everything you've done, Andy. Thank you for being my friend.
Okay, we'll move down to item 5. If there are no corrections or deletions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our December 2023 meeting. Is there a motion? Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, minutes have been approved. And I think the bonds are going around for signatures. At this time, our first appointment is Mr. Andrew Frick, the Sandblast Rally. Mr. Frick, come on up. It's a pleasure to see you again. Tell us about the Sandblast Rally 2024.
Okay, well, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, thank you for having me. So again, my name is Andrew Frick. I'm the organizer of the Sandblast Rally. This will be our 28th time coming here to Chesterfield County to run this race. Just a little recap of last year. So last year we had 50 competitors take the start, which is about where we've settled out in that like low to mid 50s number post-COVID, which is, you know, it's a good number for this type of event and where we are. We ran a good event last year. There was no incidents, and the event finished on time. You know, we did have a struggle. There's something I'd like to talk to the council about was getting medical coverage. Due to there was a EMT symposium in Myrtle Beach the weekend of our race, and it was very touch and go whether we were actually going to be able to run the full course. We luckily were able to get a gentleman from the McBee Rescue Squad to show up for a very tight window of time, where we kind of had him show up, and then like we ran a stage and then got him back to his family. And so some assistance from anybody in the county to help coordinate that, you know, the EMS coverage for the event this year would be really helpful, because I just want to make sure that we are we've been working with the rescue squads historically, but it seems the rescue squads are there's starting to be some attrition of membership in those squads, and I need to put on a safe event. And I need to have coverage for my insurance carriers and just for my own personal peace of mind. And so if there's somebody in the county that I could work with directly to help coordinate, be kind of a point person for all the medical response in the county, that would be highly appreciated for this year to get that stuff organized. As far as the event for next year, or for this year actually, we're going to make a small change to the event, which you'll see in your packet. So traditionally, we've done a thing in the afternoon on Winery Road, just down the road here, where we let the competitors kind of tune up their cars or motorcycles and just kind of like, just do some testing for an hour or two. We are actually going to change the format a little bit this year, where the intent is to still have the kind of car show here in Chesterfield, but rather than use Winery Road, we're going to go farther down towards Patrick into the forest and actually run 2 competitive sections of road that are down near Patrick and then over near H. Cooper Black after dark. So it's going to be kind of a throwback to the old style of ways that rallies used to be run. They used to be almost always run exclusively after dark. And we've had some interest from competitors to run more night stages. So we're going to have, basically more competitive mileages and spectating opportunities on Friday night after the car show here in Chesterfield. So that is reflected in the packet approval, because there's a couple of roads that we need to get approved for Friday night instead of Saturday for this year, and hopefully the council, can support those closures. Otherwise, I think we're looking pretty good for this year. We don't have a lot of competitors yet, but it's still very early in the year. But I anticipate we'll probably end up similar to that 50 competitors number where we've been at for the last couple of years. So any questions from the council or concerns with this year's proposal?
No, but we thank you for hosting this rally here for these years. It's been a great event, and most everyone has enjoyed it. Are you gonna have the ride-alongs?
No, so with the competitive stages on Friday and dropping the shakedown, we will lose the opportunity for ride-alongs this year. So.
Mr. Eubanks, have we taken care of these conditions on the roads?
Yes, we spoke with Mr. McCarn with Public Works, and he said he didn't see an issue with the new proposals and everything, so he's good to go.
Any questions?
Just as I was getting ready to do a ride-along.
Well, maybe.
Well,
maybe
if you are interested in riding the course, it won't be a competitive vehicle, but we do have vehicles that are basically civilian vehicles that are part of the organization that run ahead of the race to make sure that it's safe. They're not quite at race speed, but if you are interested in riding in one of those, please let me know, and I'll be happy to put you in. So.
Thank you.
Pull your hair down tight if you're gonna ride Dipcat now. That is an experience for those. I hate y'all missed it. Ms. Anderson, I think you've done that before.
Quite a few times.
I have. It was
man,
a lot of fun.
That was the highlight of the week.
Is the need for EMS, who could we give him as a point person to try to facilitate whatever his needs are?
I would talk with Chad and Clay and let them coordinate that.
Is there a motion to approve this event?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We look forward to seeing you again.
Yes, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you, Mr. Frick.
At this time, I'll call on Ms. Stephanie Kahn with Schwartz and Holiday, our accounting firm. Please come forward for us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I know y'all enjoy my presentation every year. So I'm gonna spend 20, 30 minutes on this for you. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna try and be short and sweet and to the point for you all. So this year you'll see that you have a single letter, that's the communication letter. You also have a little one-pager that's kind of like a little dashboard to kind of summarize everything for you so you're not flipping everywhere. And you'll see two reports. One is your audit report, and then there's a single audit report on expenditure of federal awards. The first thing I want to do is just kind of go over the communication letter. It's the same as usual. It's just our required communication with council about the audit and its completion. Basically, it just says there are no transactions within your financial statements that lack authoritative guidance or support, and all transactions are reported in the proper period. You do have sensitive estimates within your financial statements, and that's, your big ones are depreciation expense, allowance for taxes receivable, net pension liability, and total OPEB liability. We review these estimates, and we've deemed them to be reasonable. This letter also says that we had no difficulties in dealing with management and no disagreements with management, and no other consultations with other accounting firms that we're aware of. So that's that letter in a nutshell. The next thing I'd like to go over is your single audit report on expenditures of federal awards. So that's your little smaller booklet. And so this is a little new this year. Last year, what we had done was an examination on your ARPA funds, and that was because you guys were allocated less than $10 million. Well, you received additional funds this year for 2 of your rural water districts, and so because of that, your allocation is over $10 million, which made us have to do a full single audit. So basically what that does is within that little packet, there is a schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So that summarizes all your federal awards that you spent throughout the fiscal year. And what we do is we pick which programs are major, and we test those with the compliance requirements that the feds tell us we need to test. And of course, your largest expenditure was your ARPA funds, and you'll see that's called, the technical term is Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. So that's the major program that we tested again this year, and you spent almost $1.7 million of that money this year. So what we do is we test your internal controls over your compliance, and we also test compliance with those requirements. Those requirements are typically, are you spending the money on what you're supposed to spend it on? Are you doing the proper reporting? Are you following procurement procedures? Those kind of things. And so that's what we test. So with that, we issue 2 reports, one on internal control and one on compliance. And so on internal controls, we don't really opine and say that your internal controls are good. We just basically say we found no instances where your internal controls failed. So basically, we tested your internal controls, which typically means we tested your accounts payable expenditures and your payroll expenditures, and we found nothing to be wrong, which is good. The other one on compliance, we actually do opine on that, and we issued an unmodified opinion. That means that your federal awards that you spent for the ARPA funds are materially correct, meaning you complied materially with those compliance requirements. You spent the money as you were supposed to. You reported the expenditures as you were supposed to, et cetera. So that's great. And because of that, there were no findings reported. If we had found something where something was not compliant, we would have issued a finding, and it would have been in the back of this report, but we didn't have that, so that's great. Now, I will go on to our regular audit report, which is what you're used to seeing. And this little dashboard kind of gives you a summary of what's in that big booklet. So first off, our audit opinion. Our opinion is an unmodified opinion. That means that these financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the county. The unmodified opinion is the highest and best opinion that we can give. If you want to go over a little bit of the numbers, so if you remember, we have government-wide financial statements and we have fund financial statements. So your government-wide financial statements, they combine all your funds together, and they show capital assets and long-term debt obligations. And the intent is to provide a broad overview of the county's finances similar to a private sector business. So in this little top portion where it says government-wide financial summary, it kind of gives you a little summary of where you're at. So your assets are sitting around $56.2 million. 16.3 million of that is sitting in cash. 16.6 million of that is sitting in investments. That is a great position to be in because you're not reliant on issuing TANs to get through for cash flow purposes until property taxes are collected. And you have about $21.7 million in capital assets net of depreciation. Your liabilities are sitting at about $47.1 million. 9.3 million of that is in long-term debt. Only 1.9 of that is due within 1 year. You have about $6 million in that is unearned revenue, and that's mainly made up of your ARPA funds that you haven't spent yet. And then those lovely net pension liability and total OPEB liabilities, you're sitting at about $18.3 million and $10.4 million. So you take your assets minus your liabilities equals your net position. You're looking at a net position of $8.7 million. That's an increase of $5 million from the prior year, so that's a great place to be in. Next, I'm going to go over to your governmental funds summary. So this is all of your funds together. How we break it out is we break out your major funds. So your major funds this year were general fund, capital reserve fund, capital equipment fund, and then all the other little funds are put in that other column, non-major governmental funds. So across the board, your fund balance increased $2 million, so that's great. For the general fund, I'm just going to focus on the general fund because I know that's where you guys, spend most of your time. So the general fund also includes your grants funds also. So what you're going to see is your revenues. You have a comparison of last year to this year and then this year to budget. And what you're seeing is a huge increase in your revenues from last year. And the biggest bulk of that is mostly your grant revenue. You spent $1.7 million of ARPA funds, so therefore you recognized $1.7 million of ARPA funds. Some other things that I saw, investment earnings went way up. Interest rates are great. You've got a lot of money sitting in the LGIP account, your investment account, and the return on that has turned out great, with higher interest rates right now. So I saw an increase of $825,000 more in investments earnings than you did last year. And I also saw, I think your lost revenue went up also. So with more revenues, you tend to see more expenditures too, which is okay because they wash each other out. But I think your expenditures is broken down by governmental unit. The biggest increases were with public safety, economic development, and of course your grant programs. So public safety, you saw an increase in mainly it's sheriff and school resource officers, and a lot of that has to do with you received some grants from DPS for those programs. So you'll see an increase in revenues, you'll see an increase in expenditures there. Economic development, you saw a huge increase, and a lot of that was you had a $1.8 million payment to the town of Pageland for a water expansion project. And then, of course, your grant programs. They're kind of comparable to last year, but they exceed your budget mainly because of those ARPA funds. So you end the year with general funds fund balance at $1.6 million. And I know I usually get asked, what's a healthy fund balance? And we generally say 3 to 6 months worth of expenditures. And if you look at just your general fund, it looks low. But you have this capital reserve fund, you've got $22.4 sitting in there. So if you add those two together, because that reserve you do use to balance your budget, but in the past couple of years you haven't transferred money from the reserve because you didn't need to. So if we add those two together, you're really looking at almost 10 months worth of expenditures. So you're doing great between the two funds as far as fund balance goes. And the last little thing is you'll see some fiduciary fund statements. Just keep in mind those statements, the fiduciary funds, those aren't the county's monies. It's the county collecting funds on behalf of other governments. A bulk of it is school district money. So we looked at that, and you had about $33 million of assets sitting there. That's mainly cash and investments for other governmental units. And you had about $128 million worth of money come in and then turn around and go back out to those governments. And that is it. Do y'all have any questions for me?
So we're doing pretty good.
You're doing pretty good.
Excellent.
You're doing pretty good.
Keep us on the right path.
So, anyone have any questions for Ms. Khan?
Got one quick one. In a nutshell, Stephanie, we've got a clean audit.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's all I need to know.
Clean audit, you're good.
Thank
Very
you.
good. And thank you guys, and I appreciate working with Tim and Michelle and their staff. They're always great, and so we appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move down to item 7C, Ms. Oakley. know that she made it, so we move down to 7D, Miss Augustine Benton. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Augustine C. Benton, and I want to thank the county for allowing me to speak this morning. I especially wanted to speak to this council at the beginning of the new year for Everett Baskin Road while the budget is new, because our residents have been trying for over 67 years now for this road, Everett Baskin Road, to be paved. A new road was just paved last month that is next to us, making our road, which is the oldest road and the only road that's not paved in the area. When I asked last month to be placed on the agenda to speak, I received a reply saying that 37 letters had been sent out in June to all the landowners, and that and of those 37 letters, only 19 replied yes to the information. There were 3 no responses, and up to this date. The letters were mailed out to the landowners in June of the year 2023. I got this information on December the 30th, 2023. I thought about it, and I thought that I should step up and help with this situation. The next day, on New Year's Eve, December the 31st, 2023, I spent the day visiting every household along Everett Baskin Road and Everett Lane. I even prepared a note to leave in the event the residents were on vacation, since this was a holiday. Every resident that was at home said they had replied yes to the letter and said they were eagerly awaiting for the project to begin. I showed the resident the list and enlisted their help to reach out to the out-of-town landowners. For residents that were not at home, the note was left attached to their entrance door with the same information and my name and contact number. I have had 2 people to call me and 2 people to stop by to say that they would get the information in the mail to you. Everett Baskin Road is in inconceivable condition. Everyone in the neighborhood and those who do not live in the neighborhood describe this road not as being terrible, but as being horrible. It is important that this road, where wear and tear, where erosion has run its course, be paved. It is very dangerous to meet someone in another car because there is no safe space or room to pass by. It's a single lane, pothole, rugged, rough, narrow road with some curves. God forbid when it's raining. I try very hard to be a visionary and try to promote positive energy instead of negative thinking. But sometimes it's very hard to dismiss abusive, blatant, obvious, transparent, unconcealed oversights or omissions. Today I'm wearing this shirt. It says, Black Lives Matter. I know that all lives matter, and I'm human. I don't like all people. While I may not resonate with every individual, it's important to clarify that I do not harbor no general animosity toward people as a whole. Among those I hold in the highest esteem, I find inspirations in individuals who span a spectrum of colors, hues, genders, and ethnicities. While I have noticed in this council and the South Carolina Department of Transportation Department is that people who come here for help, who has been asking for 30 or more years, are predominantly African American neighborhoods. Example, Edward Baskin Road in Sharon, 67 or more years for a paved road. Edward Henson Road, 30 plus years in Chesterfield for a water line. Midway Road, 30 plus years, and that's the area where the roads are named after cattle in Sharon, asking for a paved road as well. I, being a visionary, I see this and I think about it. I hope you will think about this as well, and that you will not let this become a problem for our citizens in Chesterfield County. We, the residents on Everett Baskin Road, find it only fitting that we receive a state road like our counterparts, especially since we've been requesting and waiting for as many as 67 years now or longer. We all want to say that we live in a county that embodies what we pledge, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Eubank, I would like to ask, if I may, get an update list of those names or landowners who have not replied, and their addresses if possible, so that I, along with the help of the other residents, may be able to help in trying to expedite getting this information to you. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak this today.
Thank you for coming, Ms. Benton. Okay, move down to item 8, public comments. Before we ask for public comments, while we welcome all comments, public comment should be limited to 4 minutes per speaker and 20 minutes per subject. Is there anyone that wishes to address council today? Anyone wishing to address council? Okay, seeing as none, Ms. Peak.
Good morning, council. I'm Jane Pigg from WCRE Radio and the Link newspaper, and I cannot let this moment go by without saying congratulations and thank you to Andy Ingram. I would like to share my story with you. You know we have an AM and an FM station. The AM went on the air July 17, 1953. We tried to get the FM station for several years, and that's a big process going through the FCC. It's actually a translator. And my FCC attorney called me one night at about 9 o'clock and said, well, we're going to send this in tomorrow morning, and we really need a little more support. Is there any way you could get a letter from your mayor that we could put in this packet? So at 10 o'clock at night, I called Andy Ingram, and he said, I will be happy to help you, and I'll meet you in the morning before I go to the beach and get you this letter that you need. We were able to get it done. The rest has been history. I know that throughout his career, he has served thousands upon thousands of people, but I would have to say that what he has done for us at the radio station has allowed us to serve many thousands of people. So I would just like to thank you for honoring him, and I would like to go on record as saying, thank you, Andy. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Anyone else? Not, we'll move down to item 9, public hearings First one is Project Apollo Fee in lieu ordinance. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
Move.
Curtis, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Anderson, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the public hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to address council on this ordinance?
Could we get a description of the ordinance itself?
Yeah, this is a, agreement for a solar project between the county and Duke Energy Progress LLC.
Okay. Any further discussion? Anyone else wishing to address this issue? If not, I assume the same two people close.
Move to close.
Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Okay, we'll move down to the second master MCP ordinance. Public hearing, is there a motion to open that public hearing?
So moved.
We have a motion, is there a second? Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to address council on this?
Could we get a description on this, please?
Yes, this is a companion to the prior ordinance. This is placing this property in a multi-county park, which is necessary in order to provide the fee in lieu of tax agreement.
Anyone wish to address council on this? If not, I assume the same two will make the motion in a second to close. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, public hearing is now closed. We'll move down to item 10A. This is the ordinance concerning Project Apollo, the fee in lieu of ordinance. This is third reading. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second? Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a few things I'd like to ask about this. What is the investment into the county associated with this project?
Total investment will be, hold on. We've got our economic development folks here. They may be able to say it faster than I can.
$34.5 million is the investment, I think.
That's right.
That this is a two-county project, but I think the 34.5, is that total, Mr. Rucker? Do you know? I think that's for the Chesterfield County Park.
Right, I think that's for our portion only.
From what I've read, I think that's correct.
I'm trying to get back. Here we go. $30 million projected investment. Yeah, $30 million, and that's for our portion only.
So I guess, and I'm sure all of us up here know about the fee and lieu stuff, but there's probably a lot of people that will watch this or people here that don't really understand what the fee and lieu is all about, and I'm definitely not the technical person to describe it. I'm sure Heath could do better than me, but my understanding is the fee and lieu on a project that the county is considering is basically a separate agreement for taxing the said project based off of the economic impact that it brings to the county. My understanding of a fee in lieu would be for an industry that would be bringing jobs, that would be bringing revenue, that would be bringing people that would shop at convenience stores and all that. My standpoint on this is a solar farm brings initial investment and it brings some revenue to the county based off the fee in lieu agreement, but it doesn't bring the other parts to the table that other investments would bring. So we could say $30 million, $34 million, somewhere in that range investment. It sounds good, but the county isn't actually receiving the benefit of all this money. This is an investment that's put onto a piece of property that is something that lasts for supposedly 40 years, and I don't know that all the ins and the outs of these projects have been fully taken into consideration. So, with that being said, this project has been brought to my attention that our long-term fee and lieu attorney, which is Will Johnson, if that's correct, would that be?
That's correct.
That he is not our negotiating attorney, or whatever legal term it may be in this project, because for whatever reason, he represents Duke Energy in this project specifically. So I guess one of my questions is, why would we have an attorney who has always worked for us go and negotiate for someone else?
I mean, Duke Energy was his client. Because of that, we have another attorney that's serving in that capacity, who's very experienced, more experienced than Will, who's helping us with that. And he has done all that, all the vetting, all the reviewing of the project and negotiation of the project in conjunction with me with regard to this project. And the terms of the agreement in this project are similar and on par with what we've done with the other solar projects that council has approved.
And so that brings up a good point, because when I came on to council, I've asked questions about where these agreements come from and who sets the amounts that the county negotiates on what to agree on with these opportunities. And I don't believe that council has had a lot of influence on the actual contracts other than approving or not approving them, that they haven't had direct hands-on specifics of negotiations for these projects. That is my belief. It could be wrong. So when taking all this into consideration, without disclosing things that we have discussed in executive session, because this is a sensitive topic since it's related to economic development, it's my understanding that there could be some type of a negotiation aside from a regular fee in lieu with this, that I think it's only fair to ask about. Had Duke Energy given us a quote for any proposed project related to county business that's not associated with this project prior to second reading? Have we had communication with Duke Energy about services needed to be rendered on a separate project to this county in relation to the Welcome to Chesterfield County sign?
I was going to say, I've needed power at a Welcome to Chesterfield County sign that we've talked with Duke Power on.
And so with that being said, is it fair to say that when we needed that power, did they send us a quote? Or did their representative give us a quote for how much that was going to cost?
They did.
How much was that?
If I'm not mistaken, about $3,600.
And that was prior to the second reading of this ordinance. And so now I ask, has that quote changed prior to the third reading?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What has the agreement been made upon now?
There's no charge right now other than just a monthly fee.
So is it fair for...
Power's put in.
So is it fair for me to say that this could have been used as a bargaining tool to negotiate on a $34 million project, that there were some hurdles in the road, that we have negotiated a $3,200 quote to put power to a Welcome to Chesterfield County sign, that we have negotiated over a $3,200 bill for a $34 million project?
I can only speak for the negotiating with the sign now. But yeah, we did work it out to where there is no fee for the service that's put in it up front.
So my question is Duke Energy prepared, if this doesn't go through, is Duke Energy prepared to stand by their quote as it was before or as it is now, the agreement, whether this moves forward at this point or not?
Now, the negotiation that I had, I'm assuming that's a done deal. The sign issue is a done deal. I mean, we have, spoke on, and they've agreed to put that there at no charge.
Well, and I'm gonna close with this because I know what the outcome of this is gonna be, but I think it's very important that we take a step back and we look at how business is conducted and how things are done. I don't think that this particular situation has been as transparent as it could possibly be. I'm not an advocate for these solar projects, and for my own reasons. I feel like that this project has came about, and due to the fact that Duke Energy and this council want to be good corporate partners about future revenue sources and different things, that has had an impact on the decisions that will be made today to whether this project moves forward or not. And I say to my colleagues up here that when this is all over with, after we vote, are we going to take the same exact considerations for private citizens that own property, that these solar projects could directly impact the future wealth or economic impact that it would have on these families that own property for the next 40 years? Are we going to look at those individually, or are we going to sit back and say, you know, well, we did it for this one, so we should do it for the rest? I think that's a very important question, because at the end of the day, I can't take considerations for a corporation that I can't take from my constituents. And if this moves forward, then I'm going to be in a position where no matter where it's located, whose house it's beside, whose property these future projects join, I'm not going to be able to look them in the eye and say, I don't think that that's a good idea. Because if we don't take a stand now, go back to the table and see if we can't renegotiate a fee in lieu. We don't have to do away with a fee in lieu, but we haven't even tried to negotiate to see if there was a better way to generate revenue for this county.
And I will say this, on the fee in lieu, there are statutory constraints within the fee in lieu as to what you can agree to. The two main things that a fee in lieu does, it lowers the assessment ratio. South Carolina historically has one of the highest industrial assessment ratios in the state. It allows you to lower the assessment ratio, and it allows for the millage to be fixed over the term of the project. So you're somewhat limited with what you can do on a fee in lieu. As far as the special source revenue credits, those are based on megawatts, and I will say that what we have used as our template is generally higher than what other counties around the state have been using. You know, we've been told that we could probably attract more solar projects if we would lower that, but we've made a decision not to do that. So again, the market is really setting the special source revenue credit amount, and again, our county has historically been higher than what other counties around the state have been.
And I totally understand that, and I appreciate that information. And I do think that it comes down to, if we decided that we wanted to look at a different tax situation with future projects like this, or this project, that it could spoil any future solar farms in Chesterfield County, and that is something to consider. But I also say, what are they worth to this county? So my point is this: I believe, this is my opinion, I believe that this particular project, that there has been, whether how big or how small, there has been some what I would consider unethical conversations and negotiations to try to make this project move forward. And so that's my stance, and I close on that.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor of said fee in lieu of resolutions, let it them known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, we'll move down to item 10B, the second master MCP ordinance, third reading. Is there a motion to approve third reading?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move down to item 10C, lease purchase ordinance, a roll-off truck and a bush cutter. This is a first reading by title only. Is anything you'd like to add to that?
No, this was bid back in November, and we paused on this to keep from paying interest on money, basically, is what that is.
So this is a,
Because the trucks and the bush cutter and the roll-off probably won't come in, it was probably a 6 to 8 month wait, so that's why
Okay.
we staggered it.
so this is first reading by title only. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Conklin, second by Mr. Rivers.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Move down to item 10D, extending the emergency ordinance. Mr. Ruffin?
Sir, thank you. Back in November, council passed an emergency ordinance which placed a temporary moratorium on the acceptance of applications and issuance of permits for the establishment of mobile home parks and subdivisions. This applies only to the unincorporated areas of the county. Since that time, the Planning and Zoning Committee has met to initiate the process of reviewing and recommending revisions to our ordinances and procedures for that. Also, the Joint Planning Commission has continued to meet in an effort to develop the Joint Comprehensive Plan. Based on that, we feel like there's additional work to be done before this matter can be finalized. So on that basis, it's recommended that council extend the temporary moratorium for an additional 60 days.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there a motion to extend this moratorium?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Question. It's probably one for, legal counsel. Individuals that already have, applied and have permits and have paid the fees, are they grandfathered in?
Yes, it would not, they would not be affected. If they applied
Be
prior
affected.
to the November 1 ordinance, emergency ordinance being passed, it would not affect them.
Okay, thank you.
Correct, yes, sir.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. All right, we'll move down to item 11, standing committee reports. Don't think there are any. Item 12, items submitted by the council, there are none. We move down to item 13, bid award for the water line, Ms. Stanley.
Okay, thank you. An invitation of bids was sent out on the Phase 1, the 8-inch water line extension at Lynch's River Industrial Park. We received 3 bids, and based on the enclosed information you have from Alliance, it's recommended that council approve the acceptance of the bid from Dawn Development Company in the amount of $333,849.75.
Is there a motion to accept this accept this bid upon recommendation by staff and Alliance Corporation?
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, and item 13B, we're going to strike that. So there are 14, no unfinished business, no new business, board appointments, there are not any. Move down to administrator's report. Mr. Eubanks?
Got a couple things to remind everybody of the public meeting of the comprehensive plan tomorrow night at 5:30 here in the council chambers. And also tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, the county legislative dinner will be at the sheriff's department at 6 o'clock.
Does any council member have any comments?
In case, I think everybody knows this, but Joette Dukes has been selected as PDCOG's new executive director. We're excited to have her. So, just everybody welcome her if you haven't already. She's already been with PDCOG for workforce development, but as our new executive director.
Thank you very much for bringing that up. Also, I'd like to thank Ms. Burns for conducting the meeting last month when myself and Vice Chair Anderson were absent. Thank you, Ms. Burns. There is a need to go into executive session. Mr. Ruffner, would you please explain?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 3 items. The first is pursuant to Code Section 30-4-70, subsection A5. That is to discuss matters related to the proposed location, expansion, or provision of services, encouraging the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in areas served by the county, and that concerns the Carolinas Center Industrial Park and HS Growers. The second item is under Section 30-4-70, subsection A1. That is for discussion of employment, appointment, compensation, promotion, demotion, discipline, or release of employees. And then finally, under Code Section 30-4-70, subsection A2, discussion of negotiations, instant to proposed contractual arrangements, the receipt of legal advice that would be subject to attorney-client privileges. And the items under that matter are the detention center and acquisition of property for county buildings and services. And as noted on the agenda, council may take action by voting on any or all of those items after exiting executive session.
Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? We'll go into executive session, but we'll take a 10-minute break and meet back session, and while we're in executive session, no motions were made and no votes were taken. So, we're now back into regular session.
Mr. Chairman, are we gonna discuss anything concerning the poll workers as far as that amount of money?
Yeah, we're, looking for somebody to make a motion, then we can go into second and, go into discussion, if there is any discussion.
You know, $25 seems like a insignificant amount of money when you're talking about asking someone to work 12 or 13 hours a day as a poll worker. And as Mr. Ford indicated, we're talking about $9 an hour, what these people get paid. I think we need to consider $50 rather than $25 increase.
So you would, right now, they're basically getting 100, so you were thinking give them 150?
Yes,
Okay,
and you'll keep good workers.
That's going to, what's that going to? Be about $9,000 more, so we'd be looking at what a total of.
18.
Around 19,000. Around
19,000.
$19,000. Where would we get these funds from? You'd have to take them from the reserve?
Yep.
Take from the reserve fund?
That would be the two, possibly three elections until we get the budget, and then we could budget for it after that. But right now, it'd have to come out of reserve.
Still got to pay for it, regardless of
Exactly.
your budget now or later.
Exactly, and I think if you've got good employees, they're gonna stay with you. If you pay them well, you ain't got to worry about running them down trying to find somebody to work at a poll. And I think we really need to step up and increase this dollar amount we paying these people.
That's, I think from what I gathered, and I had asked for some surrounding counties, the monies that were being paid from surrounding counties, I'd asked Kyle Davis that was here with Kevin. That's gonna put us at right near the top of the list, because, some of the other counties are, Marlboro County is only paying the $75. And I'm just giving this for information. That's gonna put us at right around the top of the list, but,
We need to be at the top somewhere.
okay. Is anybody making a motion for that?
I'll
Is
make
that
a motion,
Is
we
that a
increase
motion?
it. I'm making a motion, we increase that from 25 to 50, increase for the poll workers.
No, wait a minute now, you're gonna give them an additional $50 to the 25 they're already getting from the county. That's what you're saying, right? Okay. Y'all have heard that, is that clear? Is there a second?
So I just want to be clear. So the county's supplementing 25.
Right
And
now.
so this would be 50 over the 25. So it's 75 in it, okay.
Yeah, they'd be 75 plus the county would be giving them 75.
So basically, we would be
The-
matching
Yeah.
the state's.
Yes,
The total would be 150 per
That's correct.
poll worker.
yeah.
We're just matching the state, just exactly what you said.
Yep, that's a good way of putting it.
I guess thinking about having 4 makes me nervous to go that high. I'm in agreement that they definitely need to make more.
Yeah, because every time you have a runoff, you still got to have them out there again.
I'll second the motion. I definitely am, standoffish, about what it could cost us, but I also sit back and look at, what they're making and what they're having to do and what they're subjected to. To me, it's, it's only giving them $12 an hour.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to approve a slot in the, Public Works Department for a dump truck driver?
I make that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Vote motion carries. Is there anything else now?
That's all.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We adjourn.